Good evening. It's Monday, October 14th, 2024. Welcome to episode 83 of Porterhouse and Teal Live. And tonight's broadcast, we'll do a little bit of a homestead update and talk about what we've been doing here this past week. And I'll be providing somewhat of a personal health update. I don't know if that'll be too much information, but I think there will be some value in there for some folks. But we'll also discuss some of the current events from this past week. And of course, that's going to have some political implications and observations, I suppose. And I've got a comment or two this week from Q&A, so I'll be getting to that, as well as Did You Know? Liberal or conservative, and clip of the week. And hopefully with that clip of the week, we'll maybe end on a little bit cheerier kind of comical note. Was the intent there. So let's just roll with that. And with that, Rebecca, how are you this evening?
I am good. I'm very good. We are getting close to Halloween. It used to be one of my favorite events once we moved here. We used to live in a neighborhood where our kids went from house to house trick-or-treating. And once we moved here, we didn't know any neighbors, so we weren't comfortable with them going house to house. So I came up with this idea that Eric would take them for a ride. And while taking for a ride, he would read them a story that I would write. And then he would hand them glow sticks. So he'd drop them off at the end of the property and hand them glow sticks and their first clue. And that first clue would take them to where they would, go to find their next clue. In that next clue was, we had motion activated things that I had collected from various different places. One being where they had to reach in and grab a clue in a hollow out log, and they were motion activated large spiders. The eye just lit up and started crawling towards them. But one of my favorites was we had a scarecrow that you had to reach into the shirt of the scarecrow to get the clue. And I wanted the scarecrow set up for a couple weeks so that the kids got used to seeing that scarecrow. And at first they were just joking around saying, "Oh, wouldn't this be funny if this was Dad?" But they got so used to seeing it, and that was the purpose for it. And we dressed it identical to clothes that Eric had a second copy of. So that when it finally came to Halloween and they were so used to seeing the scarecrow, they had gotten past that. So once they went on their little trip and got dropped off, he came back, changed his clothes, switched spaces with the scarecrow. And when they got to him, they had to reach in. They weren't scared or anything. They reached in and he came up out of that seat. It was hysterical.
Yeah, it was good stuff, man. It's awesome when you have kids and they're young and you can do stuff like that. That was pretty fun. I enjoyed those few years that we did that. We actually took some of the innards from some of the animals that we butchered and done different things with them. And, it was like you had to reach your hand into this thing and, they're pulling out a beef heart and kidneys. And so it was
kind of a gross year.
Yeah, it was realistic as far as from the standpoint of spooking them, but yeah, that was a good memory for sure.
And we had the bride that was on the fence. They'd walk past her and she would just light up. She'd go, "I've been dead for so long."
Yeah. Happy Halloween, guys. Happy harvest season, whatever you guys call it in your neck of the woods. Yeah, we never really did any trick or treating or anything like that when we were here, but we did when we were, we lived in the city for a few years, and that was actually a pretty good time too. We'd take the kids around and let them do the thing and have a little neighborhood experience. But yeah, I remember that time fondly.
Yeah, I think they actually liked it better than going from door to door. And then, of course, once they were done, they ended up on the front porch, and there was a bag for all of them that had candy in it.
Yeah.
Good times. They did get their treats.
Good times. Now we got grandkids, which is pretty cool, and we're getting a chance to spend a little time with them. So everything's kind of coming full circle, I guess. But good evening, London. Good evening, Skanesboro, and Bill Warner's in the house. So how are you guys doing this evening? I hope you guys had a great week. And yeah, just doing the thing around here, plugging away a little bit at a time. I've got a race that I'm going to be running this weekend, 100 kilometers down in Sonoma County. And so this is my taper week where I'm really reducing my volume and yeah, just trying to rest and get rid of some of the residual fatigue that I've accumulated in this last training block. So, yeah, we're going to be shoving out of here, and then somebody will be watching the homestead while we're down doing the thing. But yeah, it's been a pretty good week around here thus far. Had a little bit of weather coming in as far as sprinkles, which, yeah, the times are changing for sure, right?
It definitely is. It's nice. However, right now we have some smoke in the air from a fire that's a little bit further away, but it's blowing the smoke this way.
Yeah.
Outside of that, the temperature outside is really nice.
Yeah, no, it's gosh, that's such an uncool thing here in the summertime. A lot of times we get a lot of fire activity either up north or whatnot in Oregon, and it can push down, or up in the next county or what have you. And sometimes it just lasts for a long time, where the smoke is just, you don't really want to be outside in that, especially not running, So today I was able to get outside of the influence of that, get up in the mountains a little bit and get some miles in. But
I, on the other hand, went out and ran in the smoke.
I told you, but she's hardcore. But anywho, let's see. Hey, what's up, Dean Mullis? How are you this evening? Hey, so as you guys may have remembered from last week, we were talking about FEMA and, the failures thereof. And I don't know. Well, I'll get to that here in just a minute. But I was out at some point last week. What I wanted to mention is I was out, and I was listening to a podcast that was on YouTube, and I was doing my thing out there, and I was kind of immersed into what, they were talking about. And then, of course, now we're in political season. So every so often when they run those mid-roll ads, you're going to see politicians coming on, and they're going to be asking you for money. And it just kind of struck me wrong when I'm out and I'm enjoying myself just into this video. And then all of a sudden I hear Barack Obama's voice asking for money. And, I'm not really a huge fan of his, never have been. And, I've expressed that here before on this channel. But I just thought, what a missed opportunity that this guy has taken, and all of the politicians, quite honestly, because right now they're asking the American people to donate to their political ambitions when there are people who are still trying to put their lives back together that have been impacted by these hurricanes. And I just thought, how selfish is that? And it just really actually kind of put me in a shitty mood. So I stopped listening to that podcast at that time. I resumed it later on. But, at the time, it just struck me wrong. And I thought, wow, that's such a failure on their part. And so one of the things that we've actually done, and we've done this for a number of years, we used to donate to, different charitable organizations, at different times in our lives. I don't know. I always, at some point, I started to feel like not good about that with some of the agencies that we were donating to, just because they got so big, and I felt as though the money wasn't probably being spent in the way that I had hoped it would be or intended it to be. And so we typically don't donate to things that we don't feel passionately about, but we have donated to a few of the different organizations that are out there doing in what we believe to be good work. And the money is, in our opinion, going to be going where it's intended to go, which is to help the people who are, having, they're still going through it over there, man. I mean, even though within 3 days, the news media, at least on this side of the country, and what I'm seeing in my news feeds and my algorithm, has moved on to other stories. But that's just how it works in the news cycle. If it's not at the front, if it's not the front story, then they're going to move on. And yet those people are still back there, trying to resolve and to put their lives back in some semblance of what they knew it, once was. And some of them never will be. And that's what I feel bad about, so we've donated, and I would just encourage anybody that if you're thinking about possibly donating to a political campaign, which there's probably not a lot of people listening to this that would, but just consider also donating to somebody who can actually benefit greatly from that. And that's people in these communities. A couple of the organizations that we've donated to is one probably doesn't need much of a an introduction in this community because he is somebody who's been out there for a while, and it's a Bear Independent, has a YouTube channel, and he's got a couple of different, organizations that he works with, most notably Grindstone Ministries. And they've done things for a number of years now, doing good work out there, helping the people where they need the help, actually going out there and making it happen. And so we've, we feel strongly about that particular organization. And there's another one that that I'm not really affiliated with, but I have an interest in supporting, and it's Camp Grier. And Camp Grier is just outside of Asheville. It was founded in 1952 as an outdoor ministry for the Presbyterian Church, and it operates like as a youth summer camp, and they have different events, equestrian events and running events, as well as mountain biking events. And they do something that's kind of near and dear to my heart, which is trail restoration. And so they currently are operating as a logistical hub and a hub of operations for trying to get people's, get supplies to people, open up roads and do the thing out there trying to rescue people. And so, we've donated to them, and they are somebody, if you're not familiar with, you might want to just take a look at that organization. They, I put links to both of those in the description for this, and then I'll again put a reminder out before we leave. But I just wanted to get that out there and just say what a missed opportunity for people who have such influence and can really give back to the people that have given them everything that they have. Everything that these politicians have has been something that good people have in good faith supported them based on promises, many of which are unfulfilled and many of which haven't been lived up to. And so it's kind of like when they want something from you, then they're going to come out and ask, hey, come vote for me. I'm going to do this for you. Or, hey, maybe you could give me some more money so that, it enriches our political movement. And I just think, again, such a missed opportunity from them. And I am not going to be somebody who's going to sit idly by and allow that opportunity to actually reach out and do something that feels quite meaningful to me, to be able to give money where I think, hey, my money's actually going to help people, the good people that need it. So, if more people did that, I think, it would be a better place, a better world. But I also know that there's a lot of people out there that are doing that. There's a lot of people putting boots on the ground. There's a lot of people out there that are actually doing the work, not just sending in a donation, but there's people working around the clock to help put these people's lives back in some semblance of order. And so the little bit that I can do from the other side of the country, we feel good about being able to do that. And I just wanted to mention it.
Yes, I used to donate to folks, and obviously I didn't know where it was going. And at some point I had to decide, you know what, I'm not going to. When you go to the grocery store, they'll say, hey, do you want to donate to a needy family? But it's not very specific other than just that. Mm-hmm. And you can go ahead and you can donate money. And out of the goodness of my heart, I was doing that. But then I started thinking, well, I don't even know where this money's going to. I don't even know if it's going to a needy family. Right. I have no idea where it's going to. Or you go into a store and they'll say, would you like to round up?
What does that mean?
Would you like to round up? And then it supposedly is supposed to be donated. Oh, but I mean, it could be 2 cents. Right. I'm like, oh, no, not this time. Thanks.
Right. Yeah. I don't like giving my money, where I don't feel as though it's being spent well. And so, there's a lot of good organizations out there that people donate to, Red Cross and whatnot. But, organizations like that are so heavy with the amount of administrative and support they need to give toward the organization. And only a portion of that winds up going to the actual place where it's supposed to go. And so, I don't know, I like to support small grassroots things. And that's, I guess, my point in saying this. Mm-hmm. Let's see here. Let me get to a comment here. London says politicians and celebrities are out of touch with reality. funnel money to hurricane relief efforts. And Bill Warner said, I had the same issue with NPR in their fall fundraiser. Not one person mentioned anything about raising funds for hurricane recovery. It was all about money keeping for their radio station. Yeah, certainly, they have an interest in, preserving themselves and enriching themselves. And I understand that. But it's just kind of sad that, politicians will turn their back on you just that quick. And then while something's going on that's catastrophic, they don't even try to temper their, the amount of pandering that they're doing to try to get more money from people. And it's only to support their efforts. But that's the only time that they want you, is when, it's time for the vote. So, National Propaganda Radio. Yeah. Yeah, they are government funded.
I think Trump's the only one that I've heard that says, if you don't have it, don't send it. We don't need your money.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the right way to attack it. Not, I know people are struggling right now.
Mm-hmm.
Some people don't have the extra funds to send, and that's completely understandable with the economy that we're in. But if you do have the ability, then, it's, like I say, it just does feel good to do something. Anyhow, I wanted to get to this quote from Liberal or Conservative, where I will read you a quote from someone, and you will guess, Rebecca, or anybody else, if it's a liberal or conservative that had this sentiment. So here we go. When you've worked hard and done well and walked through that doorway of opportunity, you do not slam it shut behind you. You reach back and give other folks the same chances that helped you succeed. What do you think?
I could see it going either way, but I am going to say a liberal.
Okay. Yeah, that's a solid guess. It is, in fact, a liberal. And that liberal, I don't know. What do you think of the sentiment, first off, though? What do you agree with it, or do you disagree with it?
If it's internalized the way I'm internalizing it, I would disagree with it, which is that you're helping your friends get ahead.
What do you have? You have a problem helping your friends get ahead?
If they're deserving of it.
Well, that's what it says. You reach back and help the folks that gave you the same chance that helped you succeed. I don't see a problem with that particular quote personally. Unfortunately, I think the people that are saying that are not living up to what that actually is intended to mean.
Well, I guess that's what I'm getting at. If
Right.
the person's actually deserving of it. Instead, it's like, hey, I'll do this for you. You do this for me. And
yeah, you don't slam the door in the face of the people that helped you get where you're at. You keep that door of opportunity open, and you reach back and you help them as well. And I think that's in a sense what Obama should be doing, because the people of this country elected him to be president, right?
Mm-hmm.
Twice. And yet he's turning his back on those same people. There's people probably that voted for him and probably voted for maybe Biden too. Who knows? But he's turning his back on them because he's not encouraging, hey, let's do this, or look what, I'm doing, and I'm setting this up to help people.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that he would do well to listen to that. And he wouldn't have to go very far to do that, because that quote came from Michelle Obama, his wife. Or husband, depending on your perspective.
However you look at it, Michelle or Mike.
Yeah. So, again, I don't know. It's an interesting thing, but I don't know. London, are you asking that of me? Because I have no idea. Or are you asking that of anybody in the chat? Because I don't know the answer to that. And London is asking, did Ukraine or Lebanon send money to North Carolina? Yeah, they probably would be. Boy, wouldn't that be a slap in the face? That would be wild.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, that would be, whoa. Yeah, that would be weird, but appropriate, I guess.
Yeah.
In a weird, twisted kind of way. But anywho, Yeah, so I'm going to get to a comment that I had from somebody because, again, as I started out talking about last week's episode, we were talking about the failures of FEMA and, why they're going to continually let you down, and I cited many examples as to why I thought that was. And I had somebody make a comment, and boy, they were kind of cross. They were angry with me. In fact, they were angry with the both of us, which surprises me because I was doing most of the talking, and it really wasn't, Rebecca saying these things. It was more or less me saying these things. But here's the comment, and I won't read the person's name because I almost think this person might be trolling me, or they might be a federal employee. I don't know, but I don't want to give them any credit for anything. But I did want to read this, and it says, and now, granted, this came up like immediately after the video was. So, I mean, it did not take very long for somebody to have some disdain for what we had talked about last week. So it says, shame on you for spreading lies about federal aid in North Carolina. Both of you should be ashamed. I'm a North Carolina native and have heard nothing but good news from real survivors from the storm who evacuated. And yeah, I said, I'm glad to hear that there's good news coming from the storm zone because the bad news from folks affected is overwhelming, at least from what I'm hearing. Now, granted, I don't live over there, right? Mm-hmm. I'm not boots on the ground, but I have spoken to people who I do know that are over there. And they didn't have that impression. And what I'm seeing on the internet is pretty overwhelming as far as, not really reflecting what they're saying. So I said, we need more people like you reporting on the amazing efficiency of the federal response. I will withhold my shame until the overwhelming stories coming from people affected are in line with your sentiment. Glad you are safe, and thanks for listening. And so, I don't know. I've continued to hear that things are starting to get a little bit more organized and whatnot, but there's still a lot going on. There's still a lot that isn't being reported on. And, maybe some folks that might know somebody or is a part of what's going on over there could chime in the comment section so that we can actually hear what's going on. That person chimed in. And like I say, I don't know who they are. I don't know what their motivation is, but they certainly were quite angry with us. But yeah, what do you think?
Shame on you.
Shame on the both of us. Yeah. Let's see here. Bill says that I do know a firefighter in South Louisiana who is getting a group of his buddies to go help with Florida to help with the latest hurricane.
That's awesome.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that are doing the thing. I mean, that's really where it needs to happen, guys. I mean, if you think that the federal government's going to be the one that's going to be having their shit together, they're not. It needs to happen at the local level. It needs to happen first at the state level. It's the governor's job. It's his state, and he needs to organize the efforts, right? So if they don't have something already pre-established, and if they're not well rehearsed in this, it's going to be kind of a shit show. Like I said, man, that's why I was talking about last week, how things have been orchestrated here in this state for a long time. For as fucked up as California is, we know how to run an emergency, right? When shit happens, there's teams that are going to come in and assume control, and things are going to start happening. And FEMA's kind of like hey, we're going to show up and we'll do this, and they're a part of it, right? They're mobilizing ahead of the storm, but it's just not that efficient, man. They just don't get that much practice. And like I said before, a lot of the people are kind of newbies in those positions because, unless you're doing it all the time and you're in that position for a while, attrition happens in your organization. So, let's see here. I've got something here from London saying plenty of folks from North Carolina putting out horror stories on the feeble assistance from FEMA. Yeah, I don't doubt that a bit. It goes in line with what I'm going to show you right here.
Kim has been volunteering up here all week in different spots, Bakersville, Burnsville, Spruce Pine, you name it. She's been here. We didn't want to put any of this on YouTube, but I've been traveling this week and the rest of the world doesn't know about what's going on in North Carolina. Can you tell a little bit about what's going on? since you've been here?
So my name's Suzanne. We actually live a half a mile from here. We live there. That's our business. It got completely washed away by the flood. We evacuated to this school, which is where we've been living for the last 9 days. And we've been just volunteering with our fire department because this is kind of like our home turf, and this has turned into a supply center. Everyone keeps saying that FEMA's here, the National Guard is here. No one has been here. All these roads through here are cleared because local people cleared them. Local people that had tractors, excavators, anything, and then they called in their friends that had resources throughout the state. All the swiftwater teams, none of that's been government. It's been other states sending their teams down, like New Hampshire and Delaware.
Florida.
It's all volunteers. It's all either little fire departments or, little first responder services like that. It's no government help. One day we had 6 National Guardsmen here for 4 hours. That was it, and they helped sort in here. That was all. It's all locals, local resources. It's all civilians.
And it's unreal.
Yeah.
Just unreal.
So there's just one of many, people on the internet saying that. And, I don't know. I don't think she's somebody who's doing that to get an effect or trying to go viral or doing anything. I think these people are genuinely in disarray and have been for some time. And the media is not up there doing what the media really should be doing, which is talking about what's happening for these people. It's not an important story for them. But I can almost assure you, ask yourself this, that if the constituents that Barack Obama was really beholden to, wonder what his response would be if this happened in a place where there's a bunch of rich liberals. I wonder if there would be a lot more, grassroots effort to, hey, we need to do this and we need to do that. But these people are not part of what he considers part of his constituency. And the Democrats probably don't think that this is something that's viable for them politically. So they are willing to just move on, including the media, which the media should be actually doing their job. They fail, from time to time, more so than not. And I've got a clip that I will be bringing up here shortly, which will show you just that failure from one of the good liberals, because I like to talk about the good liberals as well, right? There's some of them that are out there, and I like to highlight that. I don't want to just be here talking shit about the bad liberals, because there's plenty of those. But if you're good, I'm going to talk about it. So, yeah, right on. Yeah, London says, I was ICS trained in California. Cal Fire was exceptional. Yeah, I'm not surprised to hear that. Yeah. Let me see where I'm going with this here. Yeah, so let me just talk about something on the homestead here. And I probably should have brought this up last week, but I didn't. Potato planting is something that we do here almost year round. We get a fall crop in, and we get another crop that's going to, be able to be harvested on the opposite side. And I typically like to get my potatoes in at Labor Day, right around Labor Day. I got them in a little bit late this year, but the benefit of getting them in this time of year, if you live in a zone like mine, where you can grow in the winter time, is that you're going to get it through the frost season. It's about a 4-month crop, potatoes. Takes about 120 days. And if you plant in September, you're generally speaking here in our zone, you're going to have those coming out of the ground mature by like around January. And we typically start getting our frosts maybe around in January, March, that window. And so they're not really very cold hardy. The foliage is very tender. And when that foliage gets hit with a hard frost, it's going to end your growing season. And so that's why you kind of want to get them in a little bit earlier. I was a little bit behind this year, but not too far behind. But I just wanted to mention that. I didn't talk about that, but I did talk about the garlic last week and tried to put a prompt out there for people to, think about planting your garlic, but also think about planting potatoes as well. Because, if you live in a zone like ours, you don't just grow those once a year, you grow them twice.
So I wanted to say, if I have shared that Halloween story with you guys before, because I don't know why I feel like I have, I love that time of the year with the kids. I miss it. I can't wait till my grandkids are old enough to do something similar with them.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Bill says that Weston Bakery in Asheville is a great place to donate. From day one, they have been doing their best to feed volunteers for free still. Yeah, it's great, man. That is fantastic. Yeah, I'm sure there's plenty of places out there that are, accepting donations and are doing great things. And if you have, an in on where to donate to, certainly use that opportunity to do that. I just put out those couple that we've donated to, and I wanted to put that out there if somebody, is looking for a place to maybe, provide some assistance is all.
Yeah, I think both of us feel it's important to help out. Like Eric had said, when you know where the money's going and it's going for a good cause, definitely.
Yeah.
It's worth it.
Yeah. Between 200 and 300 loaves of sliced bread and pastry every day out of their little bakery. That is truly a mom and pop bakery. Yeah, that's cool, man. I guess they're still able to get supplies and they're still up and running. They got power and all of that. I mean, Asheville was pretty devastated. I mean, I don't know to what degree. But yeah, it's cool, man. When people come together, local people come together, and that's when people's differences are like set aside. They don't really worry about, are you a Republican or a liberal or whatever? People are just going to come and help other people. And that's really what it's all about. And it should be that. But, I don't know. We're just so polarized in this country. And I don't know. It just doesn't seem to be getting much better. Maybe I'm not doing enough on my end. I'm a little bit acerbic sometimes. I can get a little antagonistic with things, but yeah. Let me jump into a couple of the other questions, and this kind of falls in line with things here on the homestead.
Before you get in there, what occasionally happens, like if you drive through a coffee place, it's pretty cool when you get to the window and they say, "Oh, your coffee's been already paid for. The car in front of you paid for it." So it's a pay it forward.
Right.
So you go ahead and pay your coffee, but it's being applied to the car behind you, and that is really cool when that happens.
Yeah, whenever that happens to me, I never pay for the car behind me. I just keep driving.
What a booger!
just kidding. Gosh, damn. Yeah. So this comes from Curtis Wiseman, 3178, and says, "Not being difficult, but are you?" This is in relation to my last week's video where I was kind of showing my no-till garlic planting method. He says, "Not being difficult, but are you using a no-till method?" Hang on. Okay. Not being difficult, but you are using a no-till method, but use a 12-inch deep broad fork to break up and decompact the beds. What's the difference between that and tilling? And I said, thanks for the question. You're not being difficult at all. I will address this question in greater detail on our next live. But the main difference is essentially the soil structure is kept intact, which is better for the long-term soil development. Tillage essentially does the exact opposite, and I'll explain, why this matters. So I don't know how deep I want to get into this, but just understand that in healthy soil, there's some things that are present, and healthy soil has moisture. If it's dry, it's not going to be healthy soil, but healthy soil in a healthy ecosystem, you're going to have things that are going to want to live there. And one of those things is the things that you can't see, like invertebrates, which is your worms and pill bugs and things which you can see with the naked eye. And then there's other things that you can't see, like microorganisms that are also there. And as well as that, if you have plants growing in there, that organic material is going to eventually decompose, and it's going to become part of the ecosystem, and it's going to develop, mycorrhizal fungi, which is essentially root fungus. And that root fungus is part of the ecosystem. It's part of the life that helps bind that soil through exchange of different, there's a substance called glomalin that is excreted from the mycorrhizal fungi, and it helps to form the structure of the soil, the aggregation. It aggregates it into these little balls. And that's a sign of healthy soil. If you were to take and look at healthy soil, it's going to look much like dark brown cottage cheese. And yeah, it's good stuff. And you really don't want to disturb that, right? You don't want to destroy that every year, but essentially that's what happens when you till soil. When you run a rototiller through it, you're ripping through all of that structure that is being established in your soil. And you're going to have to start over every year. And that's what happens in conventional agriculture. That's what happens in conventional gardening in most cases. But to do it no-till, you're basically just leaving that soil intact. You're making sure that you're keeping the soil covered so that it helps to reduce erosion. It helps to regulate soil, the temperature of it. It helps to regulate the soil temperature so it's not scalding and things are going to want to live there, right? And then it's going to retain moisture. And really what you're doing with that broad fork is you're just coming through and you're decompacting the soil. I do it in like 1 foot blocks, to start. And then if I want to go a different direction, I'll go a different direction. And you're just loosening the soil that has become compacted. And that's going to allow water to infiltrate better. That's going to allow oxygen to infiltrate into that soil structure, but you're not destroying it. Another really thing that people don't talk about, but like if you're using a rototiller, it has tines on it that are kind of like at a 90-degree angle. So it goes, the tine comes down and then it makes a hard right turn. And so that hard right turn is only going to go down to a certain depth, usually about maybe 5 to 6 inches is what you're tilling with a rototiller. And then the part where that right angle is hitting the soil, it's actually compacting the soil below that. So what you have is you've loosened this, say 5 or 6 inch area where you're going to be planting into. So you've got this like fluffy soil that you're going to plant your seeds, but everything below that isn't being decompacted and aerated. And so it's also just getting that glaze on it, and it's getting compacted as those tines are working down to that depth. So there's a couple of reasons right there where the no-till is actually superior. The reason why it's not done that way is because it requires you to cover the soil. It requires you to do some additional things. And in conventional agriculture, they just don't have the time to do that. Generally speaking, they just would rather run a plow through it, run a disc through it, and then they plant it up in a monocrop. And then what do? They fucking treat it with herbicides, and they treat it with all kinds of stuff. And, that's kind of how it's done conventionally in agriculture. And, they use a lot of inorganic fertilizers and things like that. So the best soil, the best soil that is ever going to be made is made by nature. And that's what you're trying to replicate in a no-till type of a, system. And so I don't know if I went too deep on that, but I hope that helps with that question.
So what I was going to ask you was, what was the difference between the no-till and aerating? Because you used to aerate the lawn.
Well, essentially you're not tilling it. You're just aerating it. You're running. So
they're somewhat similar.
Yeah, well, not really, because a lawn isn't like, it is, it's not being tilled in a sense, and you have a living root always in the ground. And that foliage, the blades of grass is going to provide the cover to the soil. So it's protecting it in that sense. So it's essentially like what you would want in you can dig down in your lawn and see worms right there, but if you let your soil dry out, then you're going to have to, and a bunch of weeds come in, then it's like, oh, it's time to go plant the garden, go fire up the rototiller, and you go out there and you beat the ground up, and now it's fluffy and you can plant in it. And that's the way most people do it. But no-till takes a little bit more work, So I had one more question, and this was a biochar type of a question. Let's see here. It says, hello, sir. Wow. I ask, or may I ask, if you have tried a biochar from plants like, I can't even pronounce that. And then the other one is odorata or Siam weed. It says we are planning to make biocharcoal from Siam weed as our research as an eco-friendly product. And, I'm not really that familiar with Siam weed. But I responded to her in this way, and I said, I have not personally, nor am I familiar with that material, but any organic biomass can be made into char, provided it has been sufficiently dried beforehand. Grass is somewhat difficult to make into char in this type of system because sufficient airflow is necessary for uniformity of the end product. And I have experimented with grass in my retort, but I found it's possible, but it's not really all that practical. For one, you just don't get a lot of bang for your buck with, light grasses and whatnot. And then it's like kind of really wispy and it's not really that great to work with. I mean, it's like just going to go aerosol everywhere. And, char tends to do that anyhow. And I prefer to have my char a little bit bigger to start with a little bit more, mass of carbon, if you will, before I start crushing it. But I'm assuming any weed that she's trying to eradicate, as an invasive will work. But like I said, it needs to be dry, because if it's not dry, it's really just not going to work well. And then you need to have that airflow through it in a system like this, because otherwise you're going to wind up with pockets where, the outside's charred and then the inside, there's no airflow to superheat that material. And it's not, you're going to find that it's problematic. But if you get your air to fuel kind of spaced out correctly in the retort system that I have, it works fantastic. I actually want to do an experiment here coming up this winter, but I'll save that until I actually do it, because I don't want to like get over my skis with that one. But yeah, I'll be firing up the retort this winter, and I'm looking forward to winter. Have I told you that yet? Let's see here. Yoo-hoo, happy birthday. Oh, hey, what's up, Braid? How you doing, man? How are you?
I know he's another year older.
I know, I'm an old dude, man. It says a good broad fork makes all the difference if you actually pick it up and use it. Yeah. Yeah, it's like anything, right? Yeah. Doesn't tilling also destroy some of the microbes in the soil? Well, it's disruptive to them. I don't know to what extent it's going to affect the microbes. I'm assuming they're somewhat delicate. So any kind of mechanical disturbance is going to have an effect on anything that would be in there that's delicate. So I would say probably yes. But, it's kind of hard to know, because I'm not like a soil scientist or whatever. And I wouldn't like really know what I was looking at underneath a microscope. I just know that if you build the house, they will show up. And if you make it habitable for them, they will show up. And so I just trust in all the good people that have done the research. And yeah. Okay.
Even if you don't want them to show up, they'll show up.
Yeah. Let's see. Brady said, hey, wait a minute here. You see those Elon Musk robots, they will be guarding soon. Scared stuff. Yeah, those are crazy, man. Like Elon's, man, he's a brilliant man. Obviously it's not him building those robots, right? He probably could, but he's got a team of very smart people working for him, and he's created this incredible empire, being the richest person in the world. And it's pretty incredible. And I felt this way a long time ago, before he even really, he was somebody that I actually felt like I admired. But I just thought, wow, isn't that crazy? We've got a guy that's like doing all this stuff, and yet our government, with all the resources that they have, they can't pull this off. And it just goes to show that, the failure of government. government could do this if they had the will to, just like they could get FEMA's ass in gear and be the best in the world at that if they wanted to. We have a military that's the best in the world. It's because we put effort into that. And if you put effort towards something, you're going to be rewarded. And so you can just tell where there's failures, they just don't have the will to do that. We have a lot of will to send money abroad to places that really aren't our interest as Americans. So we're really well rehearsed at that, but other things that you think that they would be really good at, like building robots and all this technology, they want us to all switch over to green shit, but the government can't do it. Where is everybody getting their shit charged? It's Tesla, right? All the cars out there it's a Tesla.
Yeah.
That rocket thing that went off, that he landed yesterday, was unreal. I was watching that today.
That's amazing.
I was just like, that is so crazy.
Yeah.
And that was the first try with that one, I guess. And he's had plenty of failures with the Falcon 5, that thing blowing up and stuff. But I mean, he's got it figured out now. So that's super cool. I got a comment here. It says, hi, Porterhouse and Teal. I might not have seen on your vids, but have you looked into digging your own shallow well for irrigation? I'm thinking the California laws would come down on you like a ton of bricks. Of course they would. Yeah, of course they would. We've done some things here to secure some, secondary water sources and tertiary, but everything here needs to be permitted. Everything here. I mean, you want to put a rain gutter on your house? Technically, you need a permit.
If it's touching your house, you need a permit.
So it's pretty crazy. Yeah. Other states have it kind of good like that. They can just go out and, dig a well or whatever if they have the need to, but it's not that way here in Cali. We lead the way in a lot of things, but that's not one of them, digging wells by yourself without talking to the government. So, okay. Let's see where we're at here.
Oh, by the way, I think I found a source for redwood for you to build a deck.
Oh, cool.
I'll share that with you later.
Cool. Okay.
Possibly about half the price.
Well,
the wood.
Well, better be good wood.
Oh yeah, and they'll cut it for you too.
Okay. Hey, so I wanted to share this. I guess it's kind of on a personal note, and it's related to my health. And some of you may know we started a new diet, like it's been 3 months or more, and we've cut out everything. We've cut out all the BS. So, no alcohol, no anything, right? Nothing bad for you.
Yeah, mostly.
What do you mean?
An occasional coffee.
Oh, well, coffee's not bad. I mean, I have a coffee every morning, but
no,
I'm just talking from. I'm just talking from food. Well, that's you. I'm talking about me.
I know. I'm referring to me.
Okay. So anyhow, and I did so because of, I went and had my blood drawn, and it reflected that my cholesterol levels were a little bit higher than I wanted them to be. And so I had, went to my doctor, and my doctor had suggested, hey, well, you're pretty high. So, you might want to think about doing this with your diet, and, but I'll write you this prescription for this statin to lower your cholesterol. And I said, okay, well, I took the slip from him and stuff, but I didn't really have any intention on, taking the medication, because I would rather try to intervene in a more, natural way and see if I can solve that puzzle without just saying, oh, okay, I'll just take this fucking pill and continue to eat In-N-Out burgers and milkshakes, and just live my life accordingly. So I cut everything out, and I'm not any worse for the wear. I think we eat better now than ever. It's just all whole food diet, I eat meat. I eat, all kinds of meat, right? Fish, chicken, pork, beef, turkey, but we try to space it all out. And then I eat a ton of different vegetables, mostly organic, right? Mm-hmm. And everything that we make, or she makes, is like single ingredient. And so,
yes. However, spices say like taco. If we're going to do tacos, and you normally would buy a packet of taco seasoning. For us, it's dehydrating the herbs that we have grown and mixing them together to make our own taco sauce.
Taco seasoning. Yeah.
Yeah. So we do that with the taco, with chili. I have one for chicken. However, they all can be used. I mean, it's not just specific to those. They smell good. They're good on eggs. They're good on.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you're just cutting out all the shit that, you can't pronounce in an ingredient label, your guar gums and your preservatives and your, all that stuff.
Right. So it's all natural.
Yeah. So I did that and I got my results back like about 5 days ago. And I was actually very pleased with the results. I was able to lower my cholesterol without taking any medication by almost 80 points. My LDL cholesterol brought it down. And that's really the one they say is the bad cholesterol is the LDL. But there's kind of a caveat in there. And I don't really want to get into it too much, but the one thing where you really want to pay attention to with regard to your cholesterol is your your HDL and your triglycerides. So you want to make sure that ratio is below 1.5. If it's below 1.5, that's good. And mine was 0.61. And so that's very good. I'm extremely excited about that. So I just wanted to point that out because, I think a lot of people might think that they're healthy or they're doing okay or whatever. But it's always good to look underneath the hood because I live a pretty active life. I don't look like somebody who's, should have high cholesterol, but, I did. And I think it's just important to get a baseline to know where you're at. And I just wanted to point that out that I was able to do that. And like I say, I'm pretty happy with it.
Mm-hmm. So it's pretty much like a Mediterranean diet. However, if you're following a recipe book, they do use a lot of seed oils or whatnot. I substitute those with avocado oil or olive oil, mostly avocado oil. Or if there's anything else that they suggest, I'll kind of work around it and figure out how I can do it with something that's more natural.
Right. Yeah. We haven't, nothing with seed oils, anything that has a seed oil in it. Nope. We're just avoiding all of that kind of, processed food ingredient. And I feel much better, quite honestly. The inflammation is definitely reduced. And, I feel plenty good with regard to satiation and energy and everything. So, what do we got here? Scanes says doing the same here, except mine was a lot of bad, all that eating on the road, back on the carnivore. Yeah, it's certainly challenging because there's so many, there's so many temptations out there. Everywhere you go, there's just a myriad of poor choices for you to make. And you really can't even go out to a restaurant, unless you're, it depends on what kind of diet you're on. I'm not on a carnivore, or I'm not on a vegan. I'm on what would be more considered just whole foods diet, like kind of like a paleo diet. I eat a lot of seeds, a lot of nuts, a lot of fruit, a lot of vegetables, right? Mm-hmm. And then a lot of meat, and, we eat cheese and different things like yogurt and.
Well, Greek yogurt.
Yeah, Greek yogurt.
And it being plain, it's not flavored.
Right. Organic, just shit that's organic, just trying to get away from all the processed BS, but anyhow. Let's see here. I must have missed a comment here or something. I'm trying to get caught up. Oh, you guys are talking about building a well. Says Bill Warner says it's perfectly legal here in Tennessee. I found a cool way to use PVC and garden hoses to make a hand drill that works well up to 25 feet deep. And then Esane says, that's what I was thinking. I've been watching vids from India and Illinois, everything available at Lowe's, Gorilla Plumbing. But if your states find out, wondering about prison time. Yeah, well, that wouldn't go over well here in this state. They really don't. They frown on that sort of thing. But other places, it's completely legal, I guess.
Yeah, not here.
So I wanted to kind of talk about some things that are out there from the standpoint of, current events and making some political observations. And I would just say this, that, expect more turmoil, guys. Expect more of the same of what we've seen, just another story every week. Something else is coming out and it's going to be just crazy, and so just be expecting that. And I say that because I believe that the Democrats at this point are kind of heading toward panic mode in this election. I think the shine is worn off their candidate. And the only reason that's really evident to me is that Obama has resurfaced. And Obama, if they were winning, if they felt very comfortable and confident in their position, he would probably be very quiet. He wouldn't even be out doing anything. Because since he left office, somewhat 12 years ago, he's been silent for the most part, but yet he's been very politically involved. He has never left Washington, D.C. He has a house in Washington, D.C., unlike any other president in recent memory. So he's very connected to what's happening in Washington, D.C., yet he's very much behind the scenes. You don't hear a lot from him. Except when Joe Biden was having his issues, he said, well, we got to get out and campaign for Uncle Joe because Uncle Joe's slipping in the polls. And that's kind of what you're seeing now, I think, with Kamala. I think from what I'm hearing, Trump is doing better or whatever in all these states. And been saying this for a long time. I think he's going to get the most votes. But, how is our system going to actually tally those votes? I guess that's the question that I have. And I don't know. I think a lot of people probably have that. Is it going to be on the up and up? That's what I would think we would all hope. I would feel very good about going to the polls and voting if I knew that my vote was going to be counted accurately. Just like donating money. I feel good about donating money if I know where it's going. And my vote is the same way. It's that same currency. I want my vote to count. And it's not a good feeling when you feel like they're going to be, doing something behind the scenes to skew the result. But he's definitely out there. He has resurfaced. And one of the things that he did this past week, which I thought was kind of insulting, is he was out criticizing, black men for not supporting Kamala. And it was kind of done in a way to belittle or chastise the guys that he was standing there with. And I think what an amount of hubris for him to sit there and say this, full well knowing that the cameras are rolling and this is going to be played widely. Why would you do that? As a person who ran as, there's no red states, there's no blue states. We're just the United States of America, right? Hope and change.
Yeah.
He was going to rise above it all. And people voted for him based on that. They thought, oh, this is the thing that's going to end the racial divide in this country. This is going to be the thing that and so many people came out and voted for him. I will say that I never fucking once considered voting for him.
Nor I.
Because I could kind of see it. I wasn't skewed by the fact that, oh, this guy's got, similar skin color to me. So therefore I feel some kind of connection or allegiance to him. No, I never felt an allegiance to him. And I don't look at people that way because you know why? Because I believe in judging somebody based on the content of what their character is rather than looking at them for the color of their skin. Remember that quote? That's a damn good one if you think about it. And it's one to live by. But it's pretty interesting how he was chastising these grown-ass men, saying, oh, you're not voting for her because she's a woman. That's, implying that that's the reason why they are not supporting her like they supported him.
Which is unfortunate because that is going to work on some people.
Of course. But you know what? You know who also said that? My Muslim buddy who I played. Remember I played that? And he said, well, that's what they need to do. And that's what they're going to play. It's all about plausibility with regard to putting Kamala Harris in there in the first place. And they're going to play those two cards, the race card, the gender card is going to be what they have. And he came right out and said it right there, the uniter in chief, right? I think it's just unfortunate, man. What do you think, Rebecca? Is it not unfortunate?
It's extremely unfortunate because clearly she is not suitable for the position.
In your opinion, right?
In my opinion.
Yeah, there's many people that feel counter to that. And, it's up to them.
However, when they're asked, what has she done that makes you feel this? They're not able to answer it.
No, many of them can't, right? Many of them can't. But nonetheless, I can't get over the fact he was doing this openly in public and talking to these grown ass men like they were essentially slaves. Because when you can't speak your mind and you have somebody else telling you how to think, that's what you've become. You've become essentially a slave. And I don't know if you guys remember, there was a mini series on TV in the 70s. I actually watched it as a child and I really enjoyed watching it because I felt it was educational. It was called Roots, and it was about the slave trade and how they brought, African slaves over on the slave ships, and you had the Kunta Kinte and Toby and all of that. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And they had one of the figures, rest in peace, John Amos. John Amos was the father on the show Good Times. And Good Times, those were good times, the 70s, because you had all those Norman Lear shows that weren't afraid to be politically incorrect, like Good Times and Sanford and Son and All in the Family and the Jeffersons. That was good shit, man. Yeah. When you think about it, all that racial humor and back and forth, that's when America was like in a better place. But now we're so oversensitized, we can't even fucking talk about those kind of things or even joke about those kind of things. One party can seemingly get away with it, where they can come out and say racist things like, if you don't vote for me, you ain't black. And then they can also come out and sit there and have the former president chastise a bunch of black men like they're slaves openly in front of everybody. And that's seemingly okay. Imagine if Trump came out or any other person and came out and said, hey, if you don't vote for me, you ain't white. Or if you don't vote for me, you ain't Chinese. If you don't vote for me, you ain't this. Imagine if that ever happened with Donald J. Trump. But it's no problem with Barack Hussein Obama, is it? He can come out and chastise a group of grown-ass men and treat them like they're slaves. I think John Amos, rest in peace, he doesn't have a problem with it. He's on board. He's got no problem being talked that way from Barack Obama. Take a listen to this.
You be good nigga for massa. Don't send Toby away. Toby be good for your hand, boss.
You can stay here.
Ah, Toby stay. Toby stay. Toby be good now. Toby be real good.
Well, there you go. There's a clip from the mini-series Roots. I thought that was a fantastic, enthralling adventure into our nation's past, if you will. And I wasn't offended by it at all. It's just a part of our history, right?
Mm-hmm. Which is just ridiculous because they're trying so hard to erase the history.
Dean Mullins knows. Yeah, old Jimmy Walker, he's a dynamite.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see here. I don't know. I was getting on one there, guys. Sorry about that. Yeah. Yeah, our political system is it's essentially broken, and money does run things. Bill has this to say. He says super PACs outweigh popular vote, and that's not the way our democracy was designed to work. Yeah, and it's not at all how our republic was intended to be, right? But it's been perverted, and I don't know. I just if I knew my vote counted, I'd be happy to go cast it. I'd feel like it was my duty. I don't know if I feel like it's as much my duty because I kind of know the end result here in California. And, one of the things that I think I'll get to this here in a minute, but let me look at, did I miss anything else? Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. The unrealized capital gains. They want that, don't they? Wonder why. Yeah. The Democrats want that real bad. Yeah, I don't know how that would affect, everything. Why would you even fucking want to own anything? What's the point?
Mm-hmm.
So
between that and all their nasty little secrets they want kept hidden.
Right. I've been criticizing folks here tonight. And like I said earlier, I don't want to just criticize. I like to point out when people are actually sensible. And so I don't know if I'll make this a feature of our broadcast or whatnot, but tonight it's going to be a feature because I want to show when Democrats make sense. And here's one example of a Democrat making sense.
The media in a democracy is to maintain a fierce posture of skepticism toward government authorities and toward official pronouncements. That was what the media did in this country for the first 285 years of our existence. But in the last decade, and particularly culminating in COVID, you saw the media completely take the opposite posture. The media became the mouthpiece for government policies. It shamed people who dissented from them and disagreed. It silenced them, it marginalized them, it gaslit them. People who said that they had an injury from one of the interventions, people who complained about the impacts of their children on the school closures, people who said you don't have any evidence that masks are actually based on science or social distancing. Those people became heretics and had to be silenced and discredited and burned, and the media was leading that rather than being skeptical towards government authority.
Yeah. Yep. I will say this, that if in fact Trump were to get back into office, I think the team of people he would put together would be just incredibly powerful. But I really think that that's what the state has so much to fear, because there would be a lot of reforms, I think, taking place. He would be ahead of the list in making some reforms with regard to things in medicine. I'm almost certain of that based on what I've been hearing and what they've actually stated. But the people that would be aligned with Trump on his team, I think, would be very solid, and they would have their work cut out for them, rooting out the people that are the actors behind the scenes that are just part of the corrupt establishment. Trump was very naive the first time, and he got his ass handed to him as president. There were so many people in there that were just part of the state, part of the deep state. His number two, Mike Pence.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah,
Even the vice president.
Perfect example. And so he's somebody out there now saying, "Oh no, I'm going to vote for Kamala." I mean, are you fucking kidding me, man? Right? Are you kidding me? I mean, what kind of person are you? Like, you're going to vote for that? Somebody who's opened up our borders and then has lied at every opportunity and done nothing but cover up, this failed presidency that she's, been a part of. And yet he's lining up against Trump because he has a bone to pick with him, but he's part of the establishment. He's just a puppet. So he's very bitter, I think.
Yes.
I think he's very bitter, as many of those people are. Liz Cheney's and all the rest of them, the Bushes and all of those people. They can't stand that guy. They got TDS, man. They can't see the good for all the bad that they've got hate up for him. So it's an interesting thing. But when I see good Democrats like Bobby Kennedy, who's very sensible, in my opinion, I'm sure I don't agree with him on all of his policies or his positions, but there's a lot that I do agree with. And when I see that, I kind of just go, wow, what a departure from the rest of your party. Where did your party go so wrong? And I bet he's asking himself that. He's a Kennedy man, for Christ's sake.
Yeah.
He's a Kennedy. That's like Democrat royalty. And yet he's a fucking pariah because he's come out and said, well, maybe we should look at these medical things, or, hey, maybe we should look at some of the things that are going on in pharma, and then all of a sudden, oh no, he's got to go. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They turned on him quick because that's where the money is. Like you guys said, right? That's what runs Washington, is the money. So it's pretty interesting.
Yeah. I really fear for him for these, last 23, well, even beyond that.
Mm-hmm.
But I just think they're relentless. They're not going to stop.
No, they're too deep, man. They've went so fucking far, into trying to destroy him. They're committed now. They've shown their hand, and they're not going to stop. That's my opinion, right? They can't allow him to stand there on the 20th of January with his hand risen, swearing to the Bible. They can't allow that, man.
Yeah.
That's my opinion, but we'll see how it goes. Let's just try to just like have like a positive thought here. Let's try. Okay. Here's another Democrat that actually back in the day used to make a lot of sense if you compare him with the Democrat Party of today. Some of the things that he used to be in favor of. He would be somebody they'd probably throw out of the party today. Of course, he would be aligned with them because he's a snake. But at the same time, I have to say, when somebody says something that makes sense, I have to point that out. And so give this a listen. This is something I just saw today.
In Georgia not very long ago, didn't you? They made an ad about a young woman who'd been killed by an immigrant. Yeah, well, if they'd all been properly vetted, that probably wouldn't have happened. But if they're all properly vetted, and that doesn't happen, and America is not having enough babies to keep our populations up, so we need immigrants that have been vetted to do work, there wouldn't be a problem. And he couldn't keep people all torn up and upset.
So what he's referring to is Laken Riley, who was killed from an immigrant that came across the border illegally. And there's been multiple people that have been killed. I think there's been, at last that I can recall, at least 13 people that have been murdered by illegal aliens that have come across our border. And yet the media is pretty stone cold silent on that. That's not anything anybody's holding any candlelight vigils for. But she was made kind of an issue at one of the State of the Union addresses, Laken Riley, by Marjorie Taylor Greene. And that's what Bill Clinton was referring to, saying that if our border had been secure and those people had been vetted when they came across, that would have never happened. And so for that statement to have come out in that way, I have to say I agree with Bill Clinton. I don't think he's a sensible Democrat, but nonetheless, I think what he had to say there, has merit and it's worth calling attention to. Let's see. Yeah, I'm not sure. Are you? Yeah, the Cheneys and the Bushes, etc. They're all part of the problem. They're part of.
They're all in the club.
The swamp, the DC swamp, the establishment, the people that are above you. You're just like everybody else, just kind of going along, and they'll ask for your vote every 4 years, and it says, you have any hope that California would actually get a clue? No, I don't.
Well,
Good.
I think that there are people in California that are changing their minds. However, I don't think it's enough for the state to turn red. Not for them to allow it to turn red.
Yeah, that's the point that you need to make there, because I think that there's more people here than people understand as far as that would support Trump or vote red or whatever. But the way that it's manipulated here in this state, and particularly now that they have illegals, it's kind of a one party state, and it has been for a long time. So I don't see it getting any better in California. I think that there's people, to your point, Rebecca, that are waking up, and there's more people here than others give credit to that are conservative, for sure. There might even be a majority in some instances. Maybe in this election, there might be a majority. Who knows? But if you're factoring in the illegal vote and you're factoring in almost shenanigans, ballots coming out from underneath fucking desks and, glitches and things, I don't know. I don't think
nothing to see here. Everybody go to bed.
No, I don't. Yeah. Right. Yeah. What's up, Hogs? How are you, man? Good to see you this evening. And, yeah. So speaking of California, you asked the question. It's a perfect example of when Democrats don't make sense, because something that's new, I guess, something that's kind of new on the horizon is it. And Bobby Kennedy kind of spoke to it as far as the efficacy of these masks, right? That wasn't based on any science. That was just like a mandate saying, well, we think this will help, and it's going to help airborne particulates and this and that, to help spread, with this virus spread. And there was no real science behind that. They just pushed that on people. And then it kind of became this political thing where it's like you could identify who was compliant and who really wasn't compliant. And it was just a way for the powers that be, if you will, to further suppress the people, I believe. I don't think that there was anything behind it other than that. They said it was in the nature of public health, but again, there's no science to really to back that up. And that's what the studies now show, right? Mm-hmm. They're willing to admit that. But as silly as that is, here's what we're dealing with in California. And to answer your question, do you think California will ever get their act together? Here's a good example of where they probably won't.
Increase in the number of COVID cases, and as the cold and flu season gets geared up, limited face mask requirements are coming back to several Bay Area counties. Health officials have issued orders for face masks required to be worn in hospitals, skilled nursing facilities, and other healthcare facilities. That order takes effect beginning November 1st until either the end of March or April of 2025. The counties that are requiring wearing face masks are Alameda, Contra Costa, Santa Clara, San Mateo, and Napa counties.
So there you go. Masks are coming back in California for the winter in those particular counties. And I don't know. Yeah. So there's your answer. Do you think California is on the right path? No, I would say not so much, but we are leading the way. So never forget that. Hog says, I wish they would just split the state. Yeah. And there was a movement here. It's been going on for a while. I don't think it's too active right now. I don't know. I haven't heard of it or whatever, but it was called the state of Jefferson. And it was the northern counties were interested in, kind of separating and creating this 51st state in the Union. And it would have been called state of Jefferson. And, it had a little bit of support, but it had about as much support of becoming a thing as did Ron Paul. There was a lot of people here who were in favor of it, but the reality of whether or not it would actually happen, again, was about as real as Ron Paul becoming president, even though a lot of people were like, yeah, that's a good idea. Ron Paul, he's got some good ideas. I like that guy. They're like, no, the deep state, no, forget about it. And that's what goes on here in California. They're going to say, no, that's not happening. Logistically, it would be, and operationally, it would be very, very difficult to, I guess, pull off. It's not to say it would be impossible. Of course, that could happen, but it just would be very difficult to I think, make that actually happen without the will or the support. But, yep, state of Jefferson. And Dean correctly points out that Clinton said that our population is not replacing itself, so we need immigrants to pick the cotton. Yeah, that's true, man. Yeah, what an idiot. C-19 masks are a religion for many folks. Yeah, I don't see them often anymore, but I still see the occasional like person wearing a mask, and it's so weird to me, man. It's like, what the fuck are you doing, man?
It's really weird because it's either an elderly person or it's a teenager.
Yeah, I don't see the teenagers too often. There was like this one family that came into Tractor Supply, and it was like, gosh dang it, man. There was like 6 of them, and they were dressed like they were not quite Mennonites, but they all kind of look like they were conservative, like the way they were dressed, in a sense, I guess. I don't know. Wearing coveralls and, like they're on a farm or something, and they're all just masked up. And I was like, what the hell? They're like little kids. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like a family of 6 of them. But anyhow, it is a religion for some people. Let's see here. Bill Warner says, I would like to know when politics became as segregationist as black and white before Dr. Martin Luther King. I don't know, man. What happened to the middle ground when politicians worked for the betterment of the people? Yeah, that would be a really noble thing for them to do, to actually be public servants and to do the right thing and to do it on behalf.
Would actually be doing their job.
Yeah, but see, gosh damn it, they if they don't have like some cause, then their job really isn't all that necessary. So they need to have something out there to say, hey, you need to vote for me because I'm going to make this issue better. So that's all part of the game. I mean, we understand.
If they didn't get rich, and it was solely voluntarily.
Yeah. There's very few people that are willing to, once they suck on the power teat, unless you go in and you're actually a person with ethics. There's a lot of people there that are not ethical, and they're just all about, well, I got mine and I'm going to ask for more. Like, hey, this is President Barack Obama. Come vote for Kamala because she's going to help save our democracy. Donate to XYZ now, instead of using that platform to donate to actual people that helped get him through the door, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, California, here's another statistic that you may know or you may not know, but California is one of the 14 states that does not require voters to show a form of identification at the polls, which is pretty ludicrous, quite honestly. California Governor Gavin Newsom signed a bill in September into law that prohibits local governments from requiring voters to present identification when casting their ballots at the poll. So it's actually illegal for local governments to ask, hey, can I see some ID? That's a law here in California now. And I wanted to know, just at a glance in the United States, what's actually required for to show identification. And here's just a list. This is just a list of 22 things. And there's quite a bit more, quite honestly. This isn't the only thing, but just for example, a photo ID is required for various activities, including buying alcohol, opening a bank account, applying for food stamps, welfare, Medicaid, and Social Security, renting or buying a house, buying or renting a car, flying on an airplane, getting married, purchasing a gun, adopting a pet, applying for a hunting license, renting a hotel room, getting a fishing license, buying a cell phone, picking up a prescription medication, visiting a casino, holding a protest or rally, donating blood, purchasing tobacco, and applying for unemployment benefits. And so a photo ID helps to identify, and it ensures compliance with legal requirements. So let me ask you this. since it is not legal in any of the 50 states for illegal aliens to vote, and we want to ensure that they are not a part of the system, why is it illegal for us to ask for identification at the polls? Why would that be? Well, what do you think, Rebecca?
Well, as I've always said, they're coming over here to vote. That's one of the biggest reasons to get their person in. I honestly feel that their voter form has been filled out as they come across.
Yeah.
You know, when they put them on those buses,
Yeah.
I'm sure they're filling out those forms right then.
Yeah, at some point, I'm sure somebody's handing them, some kind of documentation for them to, get their identification and go through the whole process. And, FEMA has a lot of money to disperse to these illegal aliens. I mean, there's millions of dollars being funneled to make sure that people that don't have a legal right and justification for being here are being well cared for, unlike some of the residents that are actually trying to put their lives back together. However, photo ID laws, they get a lot of attention, especially during elections. And a lot of individuals discuss whether people who vote should present any photo identification when they show up at the polls. But the differing opinions, they split the voters. Some say that presenting a photo ID is great for ballot fraud. I'm in that camp. Whereas others consider that the laws discriminate against specific voters. Which, if you're somebody who believes that asking for identification for somebody is discriminatory, and there's some, uproar about that, why is nobody up in uproar about all those previous things that I read you have to show identification for? Renting a car, wouldn't that be considered racist? That, it's going to disenfranchise somebody not being able to rent a car or buy alcohol or purchase tobacco or apply for Medicaid? Wouldn't that be disenfranchisement as well? So really, what's the answer, Rebecca? What's the motivation for anybody that opposes people showing their identification? It's purely only one thing, in my opinion. Do you disagree that it's not because they want people to vote that are not supposed to vote?
Well, they do want people to vote who are not supposed to vote, but you also were supposed to show your ID, one, that you were a U.S. citizen, and two, that you were of legal age to vote.
Right. Yeah, right. Let's just forget all about the age, right? We don't even worry about that because that might disenfranchise somebody.
And I remember giving a thumbprint.
Yeah.
So I say that should all come back.
Right. Hogs 14 says it's not about the people anymore. It's about the power. Yeah, I think it's been that way for a long time, man. The good people step up for other good people. I see you're seeing that right now. And then you've got the politicians that only step up every 4 years or 2 years when they want your vote. Every politician is just hateful to the other side. I don't have a lot of love for people that are in that position because they haven't demonstrated that they're really that ethical. There are some that are out there that are good, that are trying to do the right thing. And for those people, I do support them, but it's just so bitter. Yeah. I just wish the identification thing would get, resolved and the votes would be counted accurately. And there's absolute no will to do that. I mean, if you can launch a rocket and then have a rocket come down from the sky and land on a stand, and you've got will to do that, and it can be done. You can send a man to the moon. You can do all of these things, but you can't make our vote secure. That's pretty interesting.
It's a bunch of bull.
Yeah. Yeah, we're getting pretty so anyhow, let's move on from that. I wanted to get to the did you know for this evening. And Let me see if I can find it. Yeah. Did you know this?
We still use today and where they originated from. In the 18th century, hat makers used a toxic substance to create the felt used to make the hats. This substance would cause mood swings, loss of coordination, memory loss, and even paranoia, hence the saying mad as a hatter. During times when football was on the radio before televisions were a thing, the pitch was divided up so it could be followed easier by the listener. If the ball was back in the goalkeeper's box, you would hear, "Back to square one." In the 1920s, if you attended a carnival and played a game to win a prize as an adult, you would try to aim for the top prize, which was a cigar. But if you did not get to this prize, you quite literally got close but no cigar. Back when newspapers were written with typewriters, each letter was called a sort. And when you run out of letter type, you quite literally run out of sorts. Back when pirates roamed the seas, they quite often got very drunk on board and would go beneath deck to rest if they felt ill. When they did this, they were under the weather. In ancient India, it was a religious act to throw butterballs at the statues of their gods to seek favor and forgiveness. Hence the saying, butter someone up.
Yeah. I think that those are pretty cool too. And yeah, Hogg says he likes those as well as, or London says that. And Hogg says he agrees. Yeah, I think that's interesting, man. There's so many like things out there that we still use today, and they have such a just simple origin. You know, it's not really like anything more than just kind of a thing that was happening, and it kind of became a saying, and now it's like with us. It's not going anywhere. Let's see here. Dean Mull says, looked into it, and the funding for immigrant support comes from Customs and Border Patrol, is administrated by FEMA under the DHS umbrella. Yes, that's yeah, I heard that as well. I wasn't able to articulate it as well as obviously you just put it down there, but that's true, man. And I don't know. Yeah. But that's what you get when you get a border czar that's more interested in bringing in new voters that might be beholden to her for the next generation. And, I think, Elon Musk, he understands it. I heard him speaking to Tucker on that. And basically kind of what he was saying is if Trump doesn't win this election and it's the other side, it'll probably be like, in his opinion, the last election. I don't know if that's true, but I mean, I could see that happening, quite honestly, because if they brought in how many millions of people that are going to probably vote one way, then you're gonna have that. And if you have a system that doesn't even count people's vote accurately, and they can just kind of manipulate shit, at their will, then yeah, essentially that's what you're going to have. You're going to have a banana republic, and you're going to have a one-party rule. That's really what they want. They don't want democracy. They don't want a republic. They want one-party rule. And so what's going to happen with these immigrants is they're going to start having kids. They're going to start pumping out kids. And then those kids are going to vote for who, right? So it's just going to be this cascading effect of what you once knew as America is no longer going to be the same. I mean, it's already vastly different than when I was, it's vastly different from 2019. Let's just say that. You don't even have to go back 30 years. We can all go back 30 years and say, well, when I was a kid, go back to fucking 2019 and think of how things are now in this country. It's a lot different, guys. And so it's not getting any better when you have people that have come here that know nothing of what it means to be an American other than, oh, hey, I want to go to America. They have Levi's and Coca-Cola. It's going to be this great place. Or maybe they came here because they want to like do some bad shit. There's got to be some people in that crowd too, right? There's got to be some of these foreign actors, some of these countries that hate us that have sent their people here. I don't know what's going on with that, but I think that's crazy. Wow, man, is that a super chat? That's incredible, dude. What in the hell? Yeah, thanks, man. That's kind of
awesome.
That's kind of crazy. I appreciate it. He says, love you guys. So super chat in the house. Yeah, look at that. Boom. Appreciate you, man.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. So he says it's going to be a shit show in 3 weeks. It could be a shit show like a lot sooner than that. Like I say, I just hope nothing happens to Trump. I know that there was this so-called latest event that happened in Riverside County. And, I'm a little bit dubious about that whole thing. I think that sheriff was doing his job down there, whether or not that guy was actually somebody who was going to do Trump harm. I don't know about that. He might just be like a wing nut, or he might just be like a super fan, somebody who's wanting, because he's showing up in pictures with Ramaswamy and RFK, and he was at the convention, and so he's kind of making the rounds, and he might just be somebody who's just a super fan of Trump and going to all the places or whatever. But the thing that is actually kind of weird about that guy is that the sheriff was saying that he had a
homemade license plate.
Yeah, homemade license plate and a bunch of fake passports, and then he had these weapons in his car and stuff. So, I mean, weapons or whatever, weapons don't kill people. But if you're a fucking wingnut and you're in a place where you shouldn't have weapons, like around the president, maybe that's a problem. So, I think there's going to be a lot of things that are going to, come down the pipe here in 3 weeks, man. So just hold your hat and continue to do what you guys have been doing. Do the right thing, get your preps. And, I don't know. You guys got gas, right? You got fuel and everything in your preps. That's a really important thing to do. I rotate my gas out every month. I'll just put a new can in, and then I'll fill it back up, and it'll be in my supply for a year. And, all I've got is 60 gallons, one for each month, a 5 gallon for each month. And then like today, I just took my one for October, and I filled up my quad, and then I put the rest in my pickup truck. And then when I go down to the station, I'll just take that can with me, and I'll fill it up, and then it'll be brought back, and it'll sit there for a year until next year. I put a little bit of fuel stabilizer in it, and then, it's good to go. But like, that's the kind of stuff you need to be having on hand if you don't have that, because you don't want to be down there at a gas station looking for gas when you don't need to be. You can have that at your house, unless you live in an apartment in New York, and then you're fucked. But yeah.
So yeah, this guy could be, crazy and in there meeting everybody and kind of
right
buttering up to him and just waiting for the right time to make his move.
I know. You just don't know. But I do think that sheriff was doing his job. They were being overly aggressive. I know that guy's a huge Trump supporter, that Riverside County sheriff down there in Southern Cal. He actually did this pretty funny video a while ago, and it was kind of like a joke, but he came out at the end saying, I'm all in, baby. I'm supporting Trump 2024 or something like that. So he's a kind of guy that I think really likes the media and doesn't mind being in front of the camera. And so I don't think he did this kind of thing overly aggressively to try to put himself out there again. I think he was just doing his job. But whether or not this dude that they're saying is, a possible third assassination attempt, they released him a couple hours later. Why would you release a guy that's, going to be killing the president or whatever, if that's what they, thought he was going to do. But
now I know they have him walk up, and then does his speech, and he's behind the glass. What I don't understand is why there's not glass behind him.
Yeah, that's weird, right? He's standing up there with this bulletproof glass, and then there's hella people back there. Maybe those are all like Secret Service or something. I don't know, but yeah, he's. Oh, right on. You worked in Rivco, huh? So did I, man. London says he worked in Riverside County. That sheriff is loved by the troops. Yeah, no, he's a solid cat, man. I could see why the guys like him, because I'm sure he came up as a deputy and now he's the actual sheriff, because he's kind of a no joke kind of a guy. I like the cut of his jib too. I'm just saying that I don't know about this latest deal, but yeah, I used to work in Riverside as well. I worked down in Cabazon. That was my Saturday shift. And then I worked up in Cherry Valley. And then I worked Calamasa on Sunday. And that was my rotation. I was a, rotational. That was my shift, vacation relief, essentially.
We were just married, hadn't been married for very long. It took him a day to get there. He was gone for 3, a day to get home. So that ate up 5 days.
Yeah. It was 2 of my days off were spent on the road. But, when you have 4 days off every week, at least I have a couple days to cut the lawn and then drink beer and get stressed out and go back to work, I was on an engine company. It was just me. I was 1-0 staffed. So I'm driving this big ass fire engine and stuff. It's just me, man. I didn't even have a firefighter or nothing with me. That was old school. Yeah. I'd show up and people be like, is it just you? What do you want, man? Fucking put your fire out. Yeah. Oh, is that what he got out with? Was a $5,000 bail, huh? Yeah. Yeah. I didn't hear the details of that, but yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Let's see. Tim Riley says, once you've got some basic preps, look into getting some training. The more you know, the less you need. Check out Homestead Medical, Tactical Response, and Green Line Tactical. Yes, good intel there. Yeah, training is what's up, man. A lot of people go out and they get their preps, right? They got all this shit and then they don't really use it, and I've got some things that I don't often use, but it's important that if it's something you anticipate using down the road, you occasionally pull it out, inventory it, make sure you know how to use it. And if it's something that somebody else might be able to assist you with, make sure they know how to use it as well. So yeah, training is super important, man. That's our volunteer station. I don't know what that means, Hogs, but yeah. So what else we got tonight? I'm getting kind of down to the wire here, guys. I've got the clip of the week, but I think that's about all I've got for this evening. I'm actually working on getting an old 350-gallon fuel tank for gasoline and some form of solar energy as well. Yeah, solar is where it is at. That would be super smart because energy is one of those preps that I don't know if people somehow seem to take for granted, but I think it's right up there with food, water, and those kind of things. Energy is very important to be able to keep yourself comfortable in your own environment, whether it's heating or, keeping yourself cool or what have you, or lighting, cooking, all of that. So yeah, energy is great. 350-gallon fuel tank. That would be cool. Yeah, I've thought of actually doing that, but I haven't really pulled the trigger on it, but it would be nice to have like 500 of each, 500 diesel, 500 gas, and then just have a job.
And that's our dog again.
And just have a jobber come out and fill it, and you're going to get a better price and stuff. And we would just use it here, but haven't gone that route, but it would be smart, I think. Oh yeah. You only have one guy running your volunteer station. Yeah. Station 59. Yeah. Sometimes, yeah, they get pretty thin. I know our nearest volunteer station is not really that many people in the company. And, I don't know. I don't volunteer in it. I've had enough of the fire game. Quite honestly, I don't still feel the need to go out and serve the community in that way. But, yeah, I think it's great when people do volunteer. We need them. Volunteers are the backbone of most communities. These smaller rural communities really do depend on old dude, closing up shop and getting in the water tender and driving it down to the structure fire, and that's kind of his gig. If we didn't have that in Cal Fire in some of these places like this county, if we didn't have the volunteers here, we wouldn't be able to fight fire like we do. We would be on the state side, but as far as like some of our contracts and local government stuff, we need those volunteers to be able to support us. It's important. So hats off to y'all that are out there doing the volunteer work. Let me get to clip of the week, guys. And as I said earlier, this is kind of more or less just to kind of end on a humorous note. But if you're somebody who's not a Trump supporter, maybe you wouldn't think this was too funny. So you might want to tune out. But I think it's kind of funny. And people have a sense of humor on the internet. And I appreciate that. So here's the clip of the week.
2, 3 into that 4. Trump done, he done, and Elon Musk is at that door. Ready to save this country, so back us up.
Please don't let them bump the taxes up.
Give me the microphone on, the state of Florida's in trouble. After the storm's finally over, who go visit the rebel? Ain't nothing but a T-thing, baby. 2 tries on my life, don't faze me. Don't vote for the childless cat lady.
DJT's coming back to make it great.
Get a butt for your ass in November, come vote for me. This election could be tight, left Kamala wasn't 7-3. Take the cup of the backwards sector, hack by Bajo B, DONARDTRUMPUC.
I've been sleeping. Every time I stand up, I got a turtle head creeping. Now it's time for me to pack my shit and go. Mr. Musk, come bust up that autistic flow.
If we let Kamala win, then the country's poop. You should listen to the man with more green than Snoop. If you think that Donald's bad, sorry, you've been duped. Remember, even pits and brats smell like chicken soup.
I'm 45, 47, won't forget 9/11. Home Alone to a Kevin, Trouble, Muddy, Bruce, and Evan, Mega.
There you go. Clip of the week. And yeah, I love some of the people on the internet, man. They got nothing but time to do stuff like that. And there's some funny shit out there. And that one kind of tickled me. So I thought I'd bring that to this week for clip of the week. One thing I did want to try is let me put this on and I'll see if that shows there. It's a banner down below, and that's for Camp Grier. And I just wanted to remind you guys that, if you're unfamiliar with that entity down there in Old Fort, North Carolina, you can click on that or go in the link that I've provided in the description. And it will also have Grindstone Ministries as well as Camp Grier. And you can go on there and take a look and see what those organizations are. And if you feel so compelled, maybe donate $1 or $2. And I think the folks down there in North Carolina and in those storm zones in Eastern Tennessee would certainly be I'm
sure they'd appreciate it.
Be very appreciative of that. But anyhow, we're going to get out of here this evening, guys. And I want to thank everybody again for showing up tonight and participating in the chat. And it was fun as always. And we'll see if we can't be back here next week if I don't kill myself out there in Sonoma County in this run. But anyhow, go out and do big things.
No hitting any trees.
Yeah, I know. Go out and do big things next week. And be safe. And remember, homesteading is not harmful content. And try to go out and be better tomorrow than you were today.
We enjoy spending time with you guys and really appreciate you dropping in.
Right on. Thank you, guys.